Thank you.
you.
session. And first on the agenda is continuing our city budget discussions, this time for the Information Management Services Department. And we have them here with us. So come on down. Sorry, I'm not turned to the right page on my agenda. So we've got Kira Luke joining us virtually from the City Council, Aaron Bentley, the IMS Chief Information Officer, Noel Walkingshaw, and Chad Korb, right? Okay, good to see you all. And take it away. Or wait, do we want to start with Kira maybe?
I am here if you would like me to give a brief intro before handing it over to the department.
Sure, go for it.
All right. So for anyone watching at home or joining for the first time, the IMS department provides technical support. They also maintain and manage the city's networks and technology. They coordinate and support a lot of the city's internal and public-facing communications. And they manage everything from the city's data to the GIS systems, and also help implement and manage new projects and initiatives. The current year, the mayor's recommended budget is $43,052,934, which is an increase of about $2.5 million, which is about 6% from the past fiscal year. The majority of that $2.5 million increase is in part from the citywide 4% cost of living adjustment for employees and the new employees that were approved in the past fiscal year, and about $1.3 million in contractual increases. And that's something that we've seen in past budget years. There's been a little over a $1 million increase in that topic. Although last year we did hear from the department that they were working on ways to cap that. That's kind of to be expected with software as a service and subscriptions. But some of the caps that they've managed to negotiate this current fiscal year means that that 1.3 million is actually lower than the increase we saw last year. In other overview, in the past fiscal year, council members have had questions in budget discussions about the centralized communications team. And that's something that we first started to see in like FY22 was when the idea first started to enter into the budgeting discussions. And there's been a few different iterations as we've seen the department and that team kind of work on clarifying their scope and their role within the city. There has been progress in subsequent budgets, and we're seeing in this first year under the division's new director, the team has made some progress towards clarifying the scope of that role. I know IMS's presentation is probably going to have more data and information about that, but if council members wish to dive deeper into that discussion after the presentation, there are some policy questions along those lines. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to the IMS department.
Perfect. If we could pull up the slide deck, please. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Kara, for your help on the budget this year. She's always been there for us and a great asset. So if we can go to the next slide, that would be great. This slide outlines the organizational chart for the Information Management Services Department, and we just want to quickly walk through that to cover how we're currently structured. So IMS has 6 divisions that report up to the Office of the CIO, to me and my 2 deputies. The Innovation and Project Management Division, which is led by Liz Bueller. This has your project managers, your change managers, and your innovation team. The Web and Media Services team, which is a long-standing team we've had for a while with Director John Rand. They provide services such as this broadcast here, the city website, and areas in that, as well as graphic design. Citywide communication and engagement, that is what Kira was just talking about. A few years ago, the community engagement team moved from community and neighborhoods over to IMS. That was 3 team members at that time. This year, as part of Budget Amendment 5, the migration of language access has moved on to this team, so the language access program, and that's what this group works on, as well as social media and other aspects. IT support is not an actual division, but it's a grouping we have here. This is your help desk and the support you get for your computers, and that's led by Griff Jensen. The IMS department to support is our infrastructure and cybersecurity group, led by our Chief Information Security Officer, Jason Struck. The next group is our data and analytics and GIS group. We currently have Whitney Phillips, who is our data privacy manager. She's in an acting role until the beginning of the fiscal year, where we'll fund or hire the replacement for the director who retired this year. And the last is our software support services group. This is a group of software engineers and software support administrators supporting third-party software, developing new software, whether in Microsoft or in Salesforce or in low-code platforms. So that is our organizational structure. Next slide, please. This just kind of walks down the breakthrough of the FTEs that are part of the organization. It also outlines our part-time employees and this is kind of new for this fiscal year for us to show our part-time employees, and then the 8 seasonal employees. That is our apprenticeship program. We wrapped up our apprenticeship program recently, but we'll be starting that off shortly with a new round of apprentices that will come in and work in the divisions of IMS. So next slide, please. This outlines our key changes to our budget. As you can see, one of the things that will stand out in red is the decrease in part-time employees. One of those is a proposed change that we'll talk about converting part-time funds into a full-time in graphic design, but it also is a change in our apprentice program. What we've learned over the years that we've done the apprentice program is it's really important not to just provide these apprentices an opportunity to be in our department, but to have successful mentorship and growth there. And so by shrinking that number down and having just the 8, we feel like we can provide them with a better opportunity to learn and grow and be ready to enter the market. So it also shows that during Budget Amendment 3, you all approved a cybersecurity engineer, and then in Budget Amendment 5, the movement of language access from the mayor's office into the department. So next slide, please. This is kind of the nuts and bolts of our budget presentation here, and it really talks about where the increases are, the contractual obligations, and that exists in any really software system that we have. We've outlined a few of those here, but we've worked very hard to work with vendors and set proper expectations, as well as to look at low-cost options or better cost solutions for technology. And I'll just give you an example there. The city had a large investment into Adobe's Creative Suite, which is used for Photoshop, video creation and all of that, and it's a more expensive license. So what John Rand, under his leadership, looked at was Canva, which also provides those things, but at a cheaper cost. And so we're migrating costs there, and that helps in these areas. You'll see similar things in other products. That's where we've tried to do that, as well as centralized solutions that were distributed throughout the city. We've had that in many areas where departments had bought 1 or 2 licenses here or there, and we brought those under central governance and structure for cost savings, as well as for data privacy and cybersecurity reasons, so that we have better control across the organization of what the city is using. The personnel costs are clearly outlined there. Of really, it's just the cost of living increase that the mayor's proposed, as well as a few expenses there. And then the new FTE costs are the migration of those positions, and then we call out that the part-time position here really is a 0 increase to the budget, because we are consuming part of those part-time FTE costs to request this part-time position be turned into full-time for our graphic design. We originally presented that in Budget Amendment 3 and had requested to present it in the general budget. So as we move to the next few slides, these are in responses to questions that Kira brought to us from you all that are going to discuss communications, engagement, web, kind of the areas of IMS that have grown over the last few years and have been brought from IMS from other areas. So Noel, if you want to jump in at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Communications and engagement. In 2023, we were asked to develop a citywide communications program within IMS, building on the engagement team. The driving factors were largely especially coming out of COVID, is there were a lot of silos of communications, people doing communications, people spinning up new websites, spinning up graphics, spinning up brands, spinning up, having a hard time navigating the expectations for how to do a press release, how to get that. And there was a real strong desire to, improve the storytelling of the city. We initially began with doing an internal assessment on what we wanted to see there, and the recommendations largely were, provide more consistent training, get a new platform for public engagement, and centralizing sort of projects as we can to better communicate that, improve branding and develop a central brand, to restructure how we coordinate and communicate with our communications teams in the city. At the time, there was one giant email list with several hundred people on it that sort of met regularly. We now meet monthly as a PIO team. We now meet monthly as a social media team. We now meet monthly as an engagement team. We have monthly engagement training sessions, and we've made a lot of investment in that training. We're going to talk a little bit more about training that we've done with the web team, and then on top of that, the branding. And we now have a central communications hub where we have a branding and style guide that has amazing resources there. Not only is it just the hardcore graphics, but there are advisories on how to be more accessible, how to write for the web. There are trainings on, and I don't want to skip ahead onto the web piece too much, but there's a lot of advice that's happening there. There are shared resources, and building that out to really, our investment was try to build that community within the city of those practitioners, and also try to sort of refine and define what people's roles are. And I think Kira refers to a list that's on there, and those are the folks that are on the list. Right? We have a list of people, they've been sort of tagged. These are social media people, these are communications people, this is a web person, right? So we know who and how to communicate with people, and to step that up just a little bit better.
So if we could go to the next slide, please.
Web services, I'll talk a little bit about the Web 3.0 project, and then I want Aaron to talk a little bit about the .gov and why all of this work that we're talking about really improves our security profile, which is really important. There's communications and branding really help with our security profile. Web 3.0. We started a project, folks will say, the website sucks, we can't find anything, we don't know what to do. When we went to our last web build, we had a shiny new platform, and we copied and pasted our content from our old system. And you end up with the old content in a new view. We didn't want to change the technology per se on this, and so what we've done with our Web 3.0 project is we've made an investment in our employees and our content managers. And we've just completed a series of trainings on teaching people how to be better content managers, how to write for the web, how to write for accessibility, how to use an active voice so that our Google searches work. If you're writing in a very passive voice, it's hard to find things on the web. We've completed those trainings, and we're currently doing coaching sessions with departments and divisions to help them improve a few of their pages, with the idea that by the end of the summer, we're going to have much nicer content. When we get through that, we'll know more about our platform and what sort of technical changes we may need to make, if we need to make those changes. But at that point in time, we're really making changes to accommodate what we want to say versus trying to force that square peg into a new platform. And then I want Aaron to talk a little bit about the .gov stuff, which we've spent a lot of time on this year.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. I think we're all aware that state law required the city and all cities and all political subdivisions in the state of Utah to move to .gov by a deadline, which we've met. That's why our email addresses and all of that changed. And the direction around that is that when it comes to internet domains or domains in general, anyone can go out to GoDaddy or whoever, and you can get your .com, your .whatever domain. But the federal government is in control of the .gov domain. So you have to be a political entity. And in the case of .gov, we have two of those. One that we got approved as our general one a few years ago, and then one that's our citizen portal, which is MySLC, which we'll talk about a little further. That doesn't, you just don't get to apply for that and it's given to you. In the case of both of those, a lot of justification has to be written, and the mayor literally has to approve of that. If you have that type of security, that's one of the pieces. One of the pieces we teach in our cybersecurity and phishing training classes is look and see if it came from .gov or from an outside, and those pieces. So some people may look at IMS and say, wow, you've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but actually it really works together well from a cybersecurity standpoint, because if we think of a recent attempt we had out there with parking, and people were trying to impersonate the city, when you can have that authenticity of this truly is a city emblem and this is a city seal and all these things we work together, that builds the trust. When we have people out and about in the city and they're in a city recognized car, that's better than having, you know, the brands we've had during my 25 years of, you know, this one from this mayor from one. Now we have a city brand and we have that authenticity that we know what it is. So this has just been a lot of work that this team has done, but it puts us in a lot of a better place cybersecurity, and it helps the departments. Sometimes they'll say, well, we want this site. Well, sure, we can put that as a prefix of the .gov or a suffix, but you cannot just throw a .com website up there anymore, because state law requires any public-facing website for us to be on slc.gov.
So how come we ever had a slcgov.com? Like,
So that was before the law.
yeah, but
And
why wasn't it just slcgov when we set up the first city email address or whatever?
so when I first started here, we were ci.slc.ut.us, and that .gov wasn't even a domain that you
okay.
could have. And so then the feds created it, and now they've given it to, then they give it to states, and now it's all political. But yeah,
Oh, I thought it was like St. Louis City beat us to the .gov, and so they had like slc.gov or something. Anyway, go ahead.
no. All right, next slide, please.
Media services, yeah, this team, I mean, we're experiencing that right now. You know, they help us with our broadcasting and our filming of the events that you all go to and converting those into SLC TV, converting those into the live meetings. We're all over the place, and you can see what it is. We've been doing this for a while, and we've grown the team. We make the investments, and we're also, you know, in the public meeting spaces. We try to manage that equipment in those public spaces to make sure that wherever there's a public meeting space, that it's operational and y'all can go about doing your work.
Next slide.
Go ahead. Oh, Dan has a question.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair. On this team, I'm just noticing, and I read the staff report, I'm looking at public utilities, public lands, and CAN as, do they have their own teams? Because it seems like they're not utilizing, the citywide usage by department is really small on the right-hand graph, if I'm reading that right.
In media services, they don't have their own teams. A lot of if you look at this graph, a lot of it comes to these city council meetings that John and his team, so they would just go film little excerpts or whatever the group needs, advertisements types, things for that group.
Planning Commission, HLC,
Okay.
all of those meetings, yep.
Okay,
Or if
that's
you're
why
seeing
they're-
us at an event or a press release.
All right, it's not that they're not using it, it's just that they don't have the meetings that are broadcast in that case. Public utilities and public lands, because I'm thinking they have a very outward-facing,
Yeah, they don't do as many public meetings, I suppose.
Okay.
I mean, and that's where you're really seeing that bulk, right? I mean, we do 2 meetings to 3 meetings a month for CAN with HLC and with the Planning Commission, and then, of course, working with you. I mean, those public meetings really inflate those hours.
okay, so.
It's not that we're not available to them.
Gotcha. And on the other side, the web service, public lands, is using it quite a bit. So I was just making sure that we don't have departments that should be using this to make sure, because there's outward facing and we need to get the information about public land. We need to get the information about public utilities and what's CAN doing to the neighborhood, making sure everyone understands it. They're utilizing as much as possible as your services in the right spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Next slide.
Graphic design, we started building this team, sort of the narrative around it was everybody was asking for graphic designers. And so there was an idea that maybe we should set up sort of a central place to have some graphic design to try to build some stability. And also there was that desire to build the brand. And so our team is really focused on building those branding guidelines, building those templates to advise the designers that are out in there, but then also being that place where we can do work for others so that every group doesn't need to have one. And then, of course, you're seeing we're swimming in work, especially this week. Everybody wants a pretty presentation for budget. And so we've got a lot to do, and that's why we've been asking to try to convert that PTE to try to just get a few extra hours to try to do that. Aaron mentioned Canva and our move away from Adobe to Canva. Our team managing Canva, we're able to establish those branding guidelines within Canva. So the materials that come out of Canva should meet those branding guidelines. And that's just another way for us to help those teams that are sort of informally developing materials to have that material those materials to be consistent with those objectives of our branding. Whereas Adobe, it's pretty free range, you're picking colors, you're doing those things. It's just another way for us to help folks in that space.
Next slide. This just lays out the work and the areas where they have been working. A lot of that heavily in that Canva work this year, so that it's all templatized and that departments can run with it. So, next slide. This is just a report. You all authorized this computer donation program, and we committed as part of our agreement to you to report back on how the donations are going. This year was kind of our launch into this, and by the end of the fiscal year, we'll have 235 of those out and about. The demand is much higher, but we would love, as you're out with your community councils, is to invite people to request these. We are requesting as part of our budget that next year we keep up the donation process of up to 500 computers. So as part of approving our budget, that would be the request that you approve that. We hope in fiscal year 27 we'll be able to increase that. But right now we've been able to consistently now have a process in place and a selection process in place to give these out to the community and work with them. So, all right, next slide. That's really our presentation, and we're open for any questions you may have.
And Councilmember Young.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I especially appreciate the Canva example of where there was a similar tool that met our needs and what that looks like to be able to make that transfer. My question is about the role of AI and the plan that you have in terms of incorporating some of those tools into the city. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can start, and then we'll have Noel jump in as well on this. So we are actively using AI in certain areas of the city. And a perfect example is a request that came from the Human Resources Department. Earlier this year, the mayor asked each of the department heads to talk about their missions and goals for this year. And the HR director wanted a total compensation calculator that would show the benefits that employees receive beyond their salary. The goal was that this would be done over this upcoming fiscal year or this calendar year. And with the use of AI and one software engineer, they were able to do that within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So from a software and IT world, we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing this in the communications group. And we have a member of our innovation team, Marty, who is working on, we've got policies in place. We're a part of the GovA coalition, but working with departments on finding ways where it makes sense. You can waste a lot of money in AI if you're not careful and give everyone a license, and all of a sudden you've increased your Microsoft or ChatGPT bills substantially. And so recently we sent out a survey to all employees as well as leadership to capture that. And we want to pilot specific use cases and show the return on investment. If there's not a return on investment, then that we don't want to head that way. Another example we have is in Workday. Workday has some AI built into it, and IMS is the pilot group under Mary Beth's direction, where invoices we receive, right now we have a part-time employee who processes all of our invoices. This tool that's part of the licenses we have will now only spit out exceptions to the standard. That saving just in IMS, an example, a part-time FTE, but across the city could save a lot of staff time.
That's helpful. I appreciate it. I think just a couple of thoughts that I have. I don't know if anyone will agree with, but here we go. So I think on one hand, I certainly appreciate being thoughtful about AI, especially when it comes to a government entity where we're working, with, potential personally identifiable information. And we just want to be thoughtful about how we're operating within that space. At the same time, having been a teacher when Google was hitting it big, I also recognize that if we're not authorizing tools, then our employees are oftentimes going to use tools that they have freeware access to, and that's oftentimes a bigger risk than some of the risks in terms of being able to create a licensure and adoption framework. And I think one of the key pieces in that is education. And what type of education are we providing individuals? So it's not just oh, I could download this, OpenAI based tool and, now I'm using it in all of these different ways without understanding the risks and finding a balance. The other piece to the AI for me goes back to your conversation related to the website, because I know that we've invested and there's a lot of infrastructure there. And I'm the first to say there are times I can't find things, and that I'm looking for it. And there are very robust solutions out there in terms of creating chat bots that, implement on some of those, AI-based technologies and large language models to be able to help kind of facilitate some of those more user-friendly ways that you can engage and interact. And to the final piece of that puzzle for me, we have a lot of different departments, and I think that we've done a good job of trying to focus in on shared services, like you said, whether it's through the CRM, through Workday, through these shared licenses. I do think that there is an opportunity still to be able to create some more consolidation, and whether that's through a data lake and API technology to be able to pull pieces together, but if I think about my ideal world, if I jumped on and it was Sarah, thanks for paying your water bill this month. What can I help you with? Just to be able to have that more personalized experience. I think that that's also where we see developing relationships, especially with the younger generation, is that they're expecting those types of personalized interactions when they engage with any entity, and that includes their municipality. So just some thoughts I wanted to share for future consideration, not something I expect you to have a full plan for, but just an area of interest as we look ahead to strategic plans in the future.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And AI sits in several department strategic plans right now that we're working with them on, and we're going out in early fall to renew their strategic plans. And there's great use cases. There's a request for 911 this year in their budget to use AI. We've already implemented one tool to help them with call review and another one for call deflection. All of those can help a department that struggled to get staffing and to hold onto the metrics they have. So It's great feedback.
And I would build on that's what's really important about our Web 3.0 project, right? The AI has to read the content, and if our content is not good, then the return is not good. And that's why I think that's why we're investing in content management. And we've actually written, there are some prompts that help people de-wonk their pages. We love to wonk our pages, right? And demonstrate our vocabulary of complex words. And so we're working on that. So that's really, I mean, that's when we say we didn't want to jump into a technology solution. We knew that we really needed to clean up the content. And when we met with folks who were content managers, they'd learned web content. If they had received training, it was like, push this button, push that button, not sort of the philosophy of content management, and that's really important. Another place where we're using it, and it'll come out soon, is we're working with a group called Code for America in April 2026. We need to be in compliance with PDF accessibility. And so we are working with the AI engineers there to take a look at our websites and the PDFs. I don't know if you want to guess, but there's over 10,000 PDFs on our site right now. And so Haley and Carmen on our team will be at the Code for America on the stage next week to help talk about how we're going to be using this service to do that assessment of the PDFs, to help come up with remediation strategies so that we can then just get a little bit ahead. Hopefully, we can archive a lot of that stuff so that we declutter it, and then, but that'll help us make that plan. So it's incremental, but with data consolidation, data only works if your data is good. If your data is junky, it doesn't work well. The same with digital services. We've got to get the content good so that the tools can do their job.
I would just, sorry.
No, you're
Quick follow-up. I would just add, I do think that I've seen demonstrated use cases where it's like yes and to that, where it's like the AI also has the ability to be able to go in and, support that regeneration of the content and to do data cleaning and data processing that helps to like improve the overall factor. Yeah, so I think that there's like, it's a both. So not to say that we shouldn't be doing that 100%.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do we do that in a way that's thoughtful, but that also allows us to be meeting kind of an ever increasing need of personalization and expectation for engagement that they're seeing in other factors of their life.
And we've got a lot of that in motion. Happy to show you how it's all in play.
Councilmember Lopez Chavez.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Super excited to see this. My questions and comments are more related to the user experience, which, Noel, I'm really happy to hear we're looking at archiving outdated information that we find outstanding through our website and web searches. I wanted to better understand some of our contractual agreements. Specifically, have we seen an increase in percentages of software usage and licensing? Are we paying for individual licenses, and are there some that we could absorb or consolidate so that we don't see an increase? I know labor is going up, and so lots of companies are increasing their prices. It seems to be more related to profit margin versus utility. And then I wanted to understand as well, with some of these software services, do we have full utilization in the city yet? We've had them now adopted for a couple years, so I'd love to better understand where utilization is highest, how we can increase that and educate our city staff so we can better serve the public, because the whole point of utilizing so many of our technological functions is to increase workload and overcome the increase of public services that we're seeing day to day.
Yeah, I can jump into that. So all of our software packages now have moved from a site license to a named user license model. And part of that and part of our responsibilities as a department is to inform other departments on the importance of maximizing this technology, because it's not cheap, as we all know. And so we're working with departments under the direction of the mayor to let departments understand more their expense and their utilization, as well as doing frequent surveys in these systems of asking users if they're using it, or in the areas where we can detect if it's being used or not, to turn off licenses and reallocate those to other users. I would say in the software systems we have, We're doing a much better job than we have historically done in using software to its fullest. Early in my career, I used to joke that government is where you half-bake software systems. And we were really good at half-baking a lot of applications. And a good example of where I see us heading is in Workday. I had a conversation with Jill Love when she came on, and she said, when do we get to see the magic of Workday, right? We spent a lot of money when we moved from our previous system there. I think we're now at that point where we're starting to see, or will be seeing this fiscal year, those returns on investment more than just doing the standard stuff. When it comes to HR and the benefits there, but also when it comes to bringing in these tools that we bought Workday for, Mary Beth's business team that helps them out, they're now at a mature state where they will start to implement some of those changes, and they're in those processes. There are some systems that we have that are antiquated and that we need to look at replacing, and we're currently looking at those. One of the exciting changes that the community will see is over the next 18 months is the replacement of our public utilities billing system. That was written in-house over 30 years ago. In fact, today at lunch, I got to send off a retiree who helped build that over the time. And so those full implementations, I think will leverage the AI and the technology and the licensing better. But council member, it is a big concern because that is the largest, besides our staff, the largest investment in our department.
Yeah, what about utilization rates? That was the other part of the question. Are we seeing an increase of utilization? Take project management. I see a lot of overlapping tools listed, and I find that concerning because it would be great and more functional to have one streamlined process versus these artillery processes that are overlapping and redundant.
So one of the things we've done this last year is the centralization of Asana, which is used throughout, and bringing that together. But to be honest, project management is probably the tool across the city where we need to work with departments to get more standardization, because it really is, there's a lot of different tools out there. Some of those, there's different reasons for having those, like if you're doing construction project management versus this, but it's an area of emphasis for us to work on this year to shrink that area. And I find it as an area where we can save money as we have these conversations with departments and divisions and getting them to go to one area or the other, because then you can have enhanced collaboration as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering, based off of that, if there's almost like a legislative intent that's needed, or do you believe there's a policy that's needed to help refine that and to help coalesce around very strategically implementing certain processes that the city uses versus trying to, expand those artillery softwares? I think of, exactly that related to engineering scope or, even permitting scope. They're going to use a very distinct software and utility versus, say, FTEs that are more administrative. They should consolidate and use very similar or symbiotic systemization so that we're all speaking to each other in Salesforce.
Yeah, I think there's value in us, and we've done that. That's what Workday did, was force us in that area. So as we go through the city, really project management is our next area where we need to look at centralizing tools and being more efficient and more collaborative in those areas.
With Asana, we've put a little bit of a corral around it, and I've been kind of the cowboy that doesn't let too many people into it, because what we experienced was we had 400 users. We had 8 licenses, most of them being paid on P-card. And some of them were free, some of them were paid. That doesn't help our security profile, because again, at the end of the day, we're just paranoid. And so we've got, I don't remember the exact number, 150 or something like that. And we tried to focus on, there were a few groups that were outside of the communications and engagement realm. But we've tried to sort of corral the folks within the communications and engagement realm within Asana so that we then minimize, there are no more P-card contracts, there are no more free accounts. We now have it on single sign-on, so it's within our domain so that it's secure login, and then we have the proper retention models and things for that. there are people knocking, oh, I want it, I want it. So we're probably ready to start having those conversations. But again, what we really needed to do initially was get ourselves into a healthy place and then really start proving how we're going to use it before we went and bought a whole bunch of licenses. And we haven't budgeted to go buy a whole bunch of licenses or anything like that at this time. But we're in a much better place now that we're using it. And you know, we've got some folks who can show you how that's going, and it's really working well that way.
Okay, final question. I could keep going on, but Governor Cox has announced Utah's version of DOGE, or efficiencies. It looks like they're targeting counties, but municipalities are certain on that list. I read through it. Have we gotten any reports, or do we have a better understanding of how this will affect our municipal funding and how we project the use of different tools, utilization, or systems in our city?
We haven't had direct contact with them in this area yet. I will say we've had direct contact from the state this year more than ever when it's come to legislative audits and auditing of different systems that way. So these might be precursors to those. We currently have cybersecurity audits, legislative audits at public utilities and airports, as well as a data privacy audit coming. And so I think these might be precursors of that into these areas. There have been, over my career, the state working with the city on or requiring implementation of software. Justice courts is a perfect example of that. But there's the opposite happening as well, in that the state is helping in certain areas with funding of software systems for cybersecurity and other areas with a combination of federal grants in this. And so it's a mixed bag right there, but I see that coming for sure.
I've gotten to know the person. They spun up, not related to this, it was before they spun up a customer experience team at the state, right? Like really focusing on digital services from a customer experience perspective. And I've gotten to know some folks on that team, and that team is a part of this new team there. So we've had some sort of informal conversations, Teams chat, or not Teams chat, but just that chatter, like, what are you going to do? So I think we'll hear more about that. But we have had, I think that customer experience team that they've spun up is going to be an interesting part of that.
Yeah, thanks. All I know is that in many states that have similar legislative powers, such as Utah, I think of Florida, immediately got to write their policies in place, implement their version of an efficiency department, if you will, and start to extrapolate budget line items and services that city governments and county governments would normally provide. So it's certainly a concern, and I think we'd all appreciate reporting on that as soon as we know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pui.
Thank you,
And then
Mr.
Dugan.
Chair.
Yeah, you go first and then Dugan. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to quickly bring up a few maybe concerns, maybe some thoughts. Certainly, IMS is doing so much more now, and it's incredible the growth of the department in a good way, right? Like ensuring that our technology is good and safe, also keeping up with the changes that the state is forcing on us, and at the same time dealing with the technology and the community engagement piece of your department that has been enhanced over the last few budgets. But I have some questions related to how the community engagement and the services that your department provides connects with the community engagement that each department has. And sometimes it feels like it's a little clunky, if you wish, right? Because it makes sense that there are experts within the departments that understand the depth of the projects or the issue at hand, no one is expecting IMS to become an expert on every single project or communication piece. But sometimes those two seem to be not being flowing as smooth as one could hope. And I really want to know what opportunities for improvement on that process is. And ultimately, I think maybe even direction from the administration, seeking direction on the administration is who ultimately decides how we communicate X, Y, and Z. Because sometimes the department does it Sometimes, you guys decide, or, who ultimately says you have to talk to IMS to run this idea or not, right? That is one of the issues I would love clarification. Certainly, when the department communicates with our citizens, it comes back to us too, right? Like, it comes back to us. It's like, what does this mean? And sometimes many of those concerns reach us, and we don't. Sometimes we see some of those issues, and we are struggle explaining why that was communicated that way. So I will look at little clarification on this process.
Well, I guess what I would want to say to begin is our process has been a little bit iterative, and we're adding complexity. So we talked about branding, having consistent branding. We've talked about building the team and having those monthly training sessions, right? Building that community, building the tool set, building the branding so that folks now have those base resources so that we are more uniform, and that's largely been the areas that we're focusing. As we move forward, we're about to get ready to launch Shape SLC, which will be that new web service where we can start posting projects. That should help us with these rogue project websites that pop up all the time, right? And that's, again, part of our security profile of the .gov. Like when we have websites that are popping up in various places, that is hard for us. It's harder for us to make that compliant than it is to build a website. And so working through those things, other spaces where we're working now is we're working on engagement standards, right? Some of those best practices, we have guides, and over the next little while, we'll be doing best practices training. Largely, those best practices trainings are going to focus around this new web platform, but also some of those expectations and trying to set the expectation differences between something like planning, which follows LUDMA, which has a very prescriptive, versus something that's maybe more policy, and how we get into some of those policy pieces. Another space that now that we've built a brand, now that we've got these tools in place, is sort of how we work with consultants. There's a lot of consultant work out there. And so something we're prioritizing now, it's been on the wish list for a while, is having sort of a consultant packet, so that if we're using consultants, that we can sort of pre-establish some consistency and expectations with the work that we're doing with consultants. We're just outlining the framework for that now because we're trying to get those other pieces in place. But I think that's sort of our next space, right? Is so we know that people need to use consultants, and that's generally fine, but we need to then try to sort of build in a little bit more standardization and expectation of those consultants to keep them within the frame of the work that they're doing, so that it does still represent the city, but also maybe they're not going and asking questions that we can't deliver on because the scope of it has gone beyond. And I cut Jill off, so I'm going to let her go.
No, you said everything that had to be said. I'll just add that it takes a while to change a culture, and we're making really great progress, but we still have some work to do. We have a great team in IMS that's sort of leading the standardization, and we have really strong PIOs and communication teams in the departments. We know where we need to get to. We agree with you 100% that we need to do some standardizing in how we communicate, and we still have work to do on how we're coordinating with each other, but we're going to get there. We agree with you that there's still room for improvement there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quickly, I appreciate that. I think that there is obviously not to pick departments at all. That's just why you haven't mentioned any of them. But I really hope that there is some sort of centralization. I understand that time is a constraint, and we need to make sure that there is enough capacity to process the request in time and manner. But ultimately, consistency on the messaging and explaining complex topics to the public is something that requires expertise. And people might have expertise on the individual departments or projects, but they might not have expertise on how to communicate those to the public. And that really is key here. So I think IMS should be the source of that specific piece. so every department relies on you. And how do we communicate this? Very complex. Here is the facts. And obviously from your side, it will be speed that is required. So certainly the council communications department is something that our side of the aisle has been funding and supporting, because we also see the need for clarifying, also educating, and also seeking feedback from the public. So we love that that there is more coordination between the two aisles. I understand that in some moments on certain topics there may not be, but certainly when someone communicates with me, they're communicating with the city, or they're trying to communicate with the city. They don't, they're not just segregating me because we are a different branch of government. They're just sharing their grievances or feedback with the city through me. So we are in this together. So I want to make sure that there is a little more connection, and I hope that we can see even more connection between our communications teams, between the council and yours too.
Thank you. Councilmember Pui. Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you for the discussion, and thanks for the questions and responses about, you kind of touched on the Workday and the ERP system, that we rolled that out 4 years ago or so, and it's been great seeing it evolve. So my questions are a couple things is, are we still kind of doing our inside kind of audits on making sure we're complying with the ERP? Because, everyone can go back to just using an Excel spreadsheet and then using that as their offset, and because that's what they like, and then they kind of work around the ERP system to do that. Are we seeing that kind of drop off, or do we still have an issue with that? And then the second, and on top of that, with the system, we always have to have the ongoing training, and we mentioned this 4 years ago. The ongoing training. Do we have enough funding for that? And is that training also seeing that there's more compliance with using it and more comfort with using it? And then your earlier comment says that we are seeing that kind of turn, and we're going to start seeing more efficiencies, I guess. I'm not going to use the word savings, but more efficiencies in our operations.
Yeah, so for Workday, those are great questions. One of the things that's driving people to move away from other tools is improved Workday reporting. Finance tailed in that area because they implemented second. We had HR payroll first, right, that HR piece. And so they are up to speed in creating those. I think over this next year, when you see directors like myself not having to go run a report, but the report being presented when I log into Workday, that will continue to change and transform that area. One of the additions we added to Workday last year was a product called Workday Help that allows the business analysts in HR and finance to enhance that training experience with Workday. So if you're in Workday and you need help, it's right there as a help prompt, or also it can call in or provide the help from the staff that Mary Beth has in that area. So I expect that to churn even more and decrease any shadow systems as we use that. Less working in Excel and being able to use the product more because of enhanced reporting. A good example was the mayor's office needed help with a report. It was that education piece. Now the mayor's office is asking, can we do this with the report? And I see that from other departments as well as we grow that, and as the team that works with Mary Beth and is supported by IMS, that will decrease it more and more because the tool becomes more accessible to them and more user-friendly as it keeps evolving.
Councilmember Petro.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this is just a really easy numbers, boring question. And I'm pretty sure we answered it, but I just want to confirm. In here on page 208, IT support is decreasing by a little under 3 million. Simultaneously, IMS department support is increasing by a comparable amount. Are these terms that I'm defining poorly in my head and it's just budget neutral, or are they completely unrelated to each other?
This goes really back to Councilmember Dugan's question. Budget cycles are really important for Workday. So what we had is last year, salaries weren't in the right budget. buckets.
Okay.
So we're correcting those salary
Okay.
placements. So when we had one solution and we transposed a chart of accounts that was written for generations, we don't know the origin date, transpose that to Workday's foundation data model, trying to introduce the concept of programs, all of that. We took a best guess under pressure, right, as to how we did that transpose. And we knew, like, okay, it's going to be a little bit messy, reporting's going to be wonky. Budget cycles help. We got a little bit cleaner. Budget cycles help. We get a little bit
Okay.
cleaner. So I think that's what you're seeing there is just the data getting better and better.
Okay, so these two are, that is kind of a budget
It's
neutral shift.
salaries were posted
Okay,
in the wrong
perfect.
place.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I think that's all the questions we had. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
being here.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to our second agenda item, which is my SLC update. And for this, we have Aaron Bentley remaining with us, Weston Clark from Director of Communications and Outreach, and then I think we also have some folks available if we have additional questions, but you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, and we'll try to go fast but inform you because my goal is to keep you guys on schedule.
Okay, thank you.
So if we can bring up the slide deck.
We're close, but we're.
Next slide, please. What we want to walk through quickly, and then we're going to do, the slide deck actually has a demo part of it, and then I'm going to, hopefully if technology agrees, I'll demonstrate some of the product as well. We want to walk through what we've accomplished this last year, and one of the huge pieces of that is the launch of the MySLC app. If we look back in the history of this type of service, Public Utilities brought on a tool many, many years ago, and then Noel, actually, when he was in Community Neighborhoods, we enhanced that. But we had different tools doing different things, and we weren't integrating to the work order systems in many areas. And so the experience for our constituents wasn't what it should have been. We're not completely there yet, but we progressed a lot with the move to MySLC. MySLC is built on the Salesforce platform, which we use for many applications throughout the city. Our business license application, those that do the legislative tracking, we use it for contract management, but this is one of the tools that's built on it. One of the beautiful things about that is when you do a mobile application, your web application, they end up being the same piece of software. So you change it in one place and it changes in both. So this year, one of the great things we've done is integrate into work order systems. So Community Neighborhoods, a heavy user of Acela, we've built in integrations there. So what that means is if I put in a request that someone in Community and Neighborhoods needs to work on, they don't have to go in to MySLC to do it. They do it in Acela, and then the constituent gets the response. So there's a back and forth. The same with Cartograph, which is used for public services and public lands. And so we're working every 2 weeks to bring more and more of these service request integrations to the work order systems where the employees are doing the work. That will help out a ton because what would happen before, work would get done, but the constituent never was told that it was finished or there wasn't the back and forth. So that's the main progress of this year. So next slide. This is, we want to show the increase that's since the launch of MySLC and this process. We're seeing steady growth from our community every month of a 5% increase of them using the tools. And we really appreciate the advocacy that you all are doing on social media or in community councils. This is all driving our, our constituents to one place to get service and ultimately driving us to a better overall service model for the city. Next slide. So one of the goals that we have for the remainder of this calendar year is service level agreements. And it's a big piece of this puzzle. How that works is we've met with departments and divisions and discussed what should be a turnaround time, what's expectable. For example, graffiti, that team is just on top of it. You put in, and it's how the team's set up and how everything works. If you put in a graffiti case, Within 24 hours, that graffiti is getting removed. Certain other cases, that's not the case. If I want to get my cement replaced during the 50/50 program during the winter, it's just not going to happen, right? And so we need to respond back to the requester saying, we appreciate that you put this in, but we need to put this in a parking lot until we start doing that program. But right now and historically, people just put it in and it sometimes has been a black hole. That's why service level agreements are the next phase of how we can improve our relationship with those that are putting in cases. So if we'll go to the next slide. This is our roadmap that we've worked out as a group. By the way, just kind of the structure around this is City Council, you have an executive sponsor on my SLC. LaHua holds that role. And then Weston's holding that role in the mayor's office, and then I sit in the middle. And we talk about where we want this product to go, because ultimately this is a product for you and for the constituents. So one of the things that we're working on this year is an in-app chat. If I have a question back and forth on my case, this will allow me to chat with the people working on it. As we move forward, we talk about chat and chat bots like Councilmember Young talked about, because if we can use case deflection is what we call it, if people can self-serve or a bot can help serve in the right ways, that can allow us to have more resources solving the problems. As we move through this, we expect that next fall we'll have a new launch of the application. There's requests that have come in from departments of, can we do this different? Can we design this different? And the ultimate goal for this, and Noel talked a little bit about this, is truly this resident portal that we come up with. If I want to pay my water bill, I don't need to think of where's public utilities payment portal. If I need to pay my parking ticket, if I need to get it, so this becomes the one source of where I can interact as Salt Lake, as a Salt Laker, and have those interactions. And so over the next 3 years, that's our goal. The state is working on this as well, and we've been going back and forth working with their IT team as well. What we don't want is to have, the state's working on kind of a Utah login approach, and it would be great if that same login, whether I'm getting my fishing license or registering my car, if you could pass that across to ours as well, instead of having to be a Salt Lake login, a Salt Lake County login, a Utah login. So that's the roadmap that we are working on. Obviously, if there's things that you all see that you would like to see, come sooner, those are things that LaHua can bring, and we'll work back and forth with the development team on those. Just of point, in case we don't have a development team that is dedicated to my SLC, we have a Salesforce team that runs about 7 other applications, so we have to kind of fit them into schedules that way, but this is the roadmap. So next slide, please. This is I will jump into this a little further, but this is an example of a dashboard, and I'll show you what those dashboards look like. The important thing for you to know, as well as department heads, is our development team as well as our support team are willing to come and work with you all on creating the dashboards that you need. If it's a data set that sits inside of my SLC, if you want it by council district, different things like that, we will work with you and your liaisons to make sure you have the information you need. So next slide. We're going to click on this, and hopefully this little video will show, it's been out on social media, but this will show you from that. If will that not work through there? Okay, they're working on it. If not, it just walks through what it looks like to put in a case. Or you can go to social media and you can watch Councilmember Young show her constituents. She posted that recently of how it works. So do we want to just move on from that? I can.
Give him another second, maybe.
Okay. Technology never works for a CIO, so we'll get there. Yeah, hopefully if you put that, yep. There's audio to it, so do you want to do the play-by-play? Why don't you do the play-by-play? You're better than me. You got to say something.
I don't know. I thought I was here for eye candy. No, is that not what I heard?
This is just an example of if we can keep going, of someone putting in a graffiti request. We have kind of hot topics or icons at the top that we can switch out. But this one, you can either search for graffiti or hit the icon, and it'll walk you through implementing a request for service. People have the opportunity to do this anonymous. The problem with anonymous is you don't get feedback, right? We don't have a way to tell you when it's done. So, but if you do provide it, you'll get that feedback, so.
I will say that the number one thing I love about it that's customer service focused is how a resident doesn't need to know what department or division manages the issue that you have. You're able to find the issue that you have, and the system finds the department or division for you. It's really a great service to be able to send residents to the app or to the website, and the feedback we get is generally very positive for the outcomes that residents are seeing. It's a great customer service experience.
Perfect, and this just walks through where you can upload images of the graffiti, or in the case of Councilmember Young, the tree on the stop sign, but anything like that. This is all stored securely in Salesforce and has the retention schedules there. So we can go to the next slide. And then this is just walks through kind of the process we have. And the next slide. So open to questions, and then I can show a brief demonstration.
Councilmember Lopez Chavez.
Thank you. Thanks again, Aaron and Weston, for showing us the MySLC updates. Can you walk me through what an output looks like right now? How much time a constituent can expect once they submit a concern, and then what that notification looks like so that they can know the progress of their case?
Yep, I can do that in just a second. I'm just going to get this going as well. So once again, that's somewhat based on the case type, but there are responses that go out, and that's really the next phase. So I would say that's our weakness right now in the system, is because we don't have the SLAs. They don't know necessarily what the response time. They get an auto response that says we've received your case, but the next phase of this project is to say, you put in a graffiti request, normally that takes us this amount of time, and then they get it. So they'll get the auto response and the closure, but they don't have from the departments, this is what I should expect, and that's why we're doing SLAs that way.
That's great. I'm excited by that. The only other question I had on that slide where you showed the different departments utilizing MySLC, or that's receiving the casework from that's submitted through MySLC. If I'm not mistaken, the city council is receiving the highest demand right now. Is that correct?
You receive the highest demand, and you use it because of calls that come into your council comments, all of those things. Your liaisons are a heavy user. Weston and his team are heavy users, and then the rest of those. And I can actually show this on the screen. I'm hopefully showing up here. This is kind of the, see if I can minimize this. This is a dashboard that you would all have that we can customize for you, but this shows where the work is coming. For example, if we were to look over here, and I don't know if the mouse over is going to work through Zoom. We can look and see what's driving the highest traffic. A lot of that, I wish I could, let me see if I can get this to go away. What drives the highest traffic in the city right now. So parking illegally is one of our peak drivers right now. Encampments, graffiti removals, and then comments to the mayor and council, those go down through there. So, but your department, your group, you're not a department, but your organization is truly a heavy consumer of it. And that's driving a lot of the resolutions that come through.
Thank you. I just want to highlight, I am personally concerned by that because we're a mediator office. We don't resolve issues directly. Just as we think about, I haven't heard this brought up in a while, but a 311 system or a consolidated system where true CRM management is being procured is something I'm really concerned about as we see an increase of services, which your report showed again. Just wanted to highlight that as a place why adoption citywide is needed for the departments that are able to service our constituents, our neighbors and residents versus, say, a council or mayor office.
Yeah, agreed. Something we'll see a lot of is a triple complaint is what I'll say, or a triple issue, mayor's office, council, and to the departments. And one of the things we're working on is deduping those so it comes in as one request. But yeah, it is super important, as you mentioned, for each department. And we are seeing increase in adoption from the departments and use, particularly as we brought those integrations in.
Councilmember Young and then Dugan.
I love this app. It's true. I think the thing that I love most about it is it gets back to like the historical days in the community where like you were taking your wagon down the road and somebody had a broken wagon wheel and you're like, I'm going to help that person, you know? And I think that there's some times where in the day and age of the size and scale we are and the technology, it can feel like I need somebody to come help my stop sign, you know? And it's like, but I have no idea who that is. And so by having an app that allows you to very quickly like type in, here's the key issue, to me, it's not even as much about like the city as much as it is the community having a mechanism to be able to say, I'm responsible for my community as well. And I want to make sure the city knows when we have an issue that needs to be addressed, as opposed to it being like, well, somebody else is going to take care of that stop sign. I really think you guys have done an incredible job of making it super easy and efficient. As somebody, and I know SLCPD is not going to love this, but as somebody who like patrols, fake patrols, like District 7, just to like be on the lookout for like what needs are, I don't even have to know the address of where I am because the app will tell me like, here's where you're standing. And I'm like, perfect, log with my photo. So to me, this is one of those city success stories. And the number one question I get is, if you submit something, will someone respond? And I am the first to say I have always gotten a response. Like if you click anonymous, you're not going to get a response. But if you like enter your information, I always have heard back. And even on those longer term cases that it's been assigned to someone and that I'm not going to get a response within, you know, like the next week or so, but that it's in the queue. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's not thank you to me, really. It's really to the departments out there and the staff of the city who are improving their responses. This technology is helping, but I think it's an effort from every department out there that's striving to improve in this area. But there, as Councilmember Lopez Chavez says, we still have a lot of room for improvement. And as we tie technology with business processes, I think we will get there.
And I would just add, if you do hear of any suggestions from the community and changes, I'd be happy to receive them as well as I work with Aaron and his team to implement those changes. I'm always happy to hear any suggestions you have.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yeah, I want to echo what Councilman Young said. I love this. Every time I have a community meeting, every time I meet somebody, they're going to complain to me, or they want to send me a complaint, or they want a fix for their pothole or graffiti. I'm like, hey, do you have this app? And then I kind of walk them through and say, this is using your app. And I love the way the new format is compared to the old format. You know, the top four, the potholes, the graffiti, the parking, and the encampment. I mean, that's where I'm telling people to go to, and I use it quite a bit. So I also love receiving the quick feedback, and I'm also appreciative of the effort that you took on, because people were getting hey, the case is closed like within like 20 minutes or so, and it really wasn't closed. It was just closed at one end and not really at the full end. So you cleaned that up, which is also very appreciative on our end, and so. Yes, keep moving on this, and we need to keep pushing it hard. My question is on, you said there's a 5% increase over the month over month. Are we seeing more repeat users, or is this unique users using the app?
Kristen, do you have an answer? We'll get back to you on that, yeah. We are seeing an increase in adoption of the use of the app, but we'll report back on the usage of repeat users and what that growth is as well.
And can we also post Councilmember Young's video on training?
I think we can put it out there.
Yeah, I want a contract on that one. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move to an ordinance for a zoning map amendment at approximately 128 North N Street. So with us for this item, we have Brian Fulmer from a council policy analyst and Alicia Seeley, the principal planner for this project.
Thank you. We're joined by Chrissy Gilmore, the planning
Yes.
manager as well.
Okay.
This is a proposal to amend the zoning map for the property you mentioned from its current SR1A or special pattern residential zoning to RMF 30 or low-density multifamily residential. Property is in the Avenues Local Historic District. The owner's representative is here. He does not have a presentation, but is available for questions if you have them. And I'll turn it over to Alicia.
Great, thank you. As Brian said, this is a petition for a zoning map amendment on 128 North N Street in the Avenues. Current zoning is SR1A, and they are applying to change that zone to RMF 30. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give an introduction to the site, here's an aerial view of where this property sits. It fronts N Street just south of 3rd Avenue. Again, the current zoning is SR1A Special Development Pattern Residential, which is largely a single-family zone. And the proposed zoning district is RMF 30, which is low-density multifamily residential district. This property also sits in the Avenues Historic District, so anything that happens to this property also goes through Historic Landmark Commission approval as well. Next slide, please. Great. So as you can see here on the left is the zoning map of the vicinity. Most of the adjacent properties are SR1A with the exception of the abutting property just north of this subject site, which is zoned RMU 35 residential mixed use. And that's the site of some newly completed townhomes on that corner. And then here is a photo of the existing fourplex that is fronting N Street. This is a historic contributing structure and is not proposed to be altered by this proposal in any way. Next slide. To give a little more context on the subject site, this is at the rear of the site. There are 4 existing detached garages along the north property line. The intent of this rezone would be to remove those garages and build 3 multifamily units right there. The other detached garages in the southeast corner are proposed to remain. And then here's the view of the fourplex from the rear of the lot, and you can see it does share a driveway with the abutting condominiums on the south side. Next slide, please. So again, the proposal details the purpose of this rezone is that the applicant wishes to build 3 new units in the rear of the property where those existing garages are currently. And these will be, a 3-unit multifamily building. Next slide. To give some neighborhood context, these are the properties immediately to the north and south of the property. They are both also multifamily structures. The townhomes on the corner are 35 feet tall, and the Notting Court condominiums on the south side are 30 feet tall. Next slide. For more neighborhood context, this top photo is N Street, directly across from the subject site, and then 3rd Avenue across from the subject site. This neighborhood is largely characterized by single and 2-story single-family homes and some small-scale multifamily structures mixed in. Next slide, please. So these are the primary changes that would result in changing this property from SR1A to RMF 30. It would result in a maximum building height going from 23 feet up to 30 feet. The minimum lot area per dwelling unit is currently 5,000 square feet for a single family home or 4,000 for a twin home unit. And that would go down to 2,000 square feet per dwelling unit to allow for a bit more density. RMF 30 also allows the addition of a few more housing types than are currently allowed in SR1A, those being multifamily dwellings and row houses. And RMF 30 does also allow multiple buildings on a parcel without all of those buildings having street frontage. And finally, RMF 30 awards bonus units when preserving a principal structure by right, which this property would qualify for, as that existing fourplex is over 50 years old. Next slide. Okay, great. This rezone and the intent of the infill development is supported by the city's primary housing plans, Plan Salt Lake, Thriving in Place, and Housing SLC. These plans all call for gentle infill and rental opportunities in existing neighborhoods throughout the city. These multifamily units are intended to be rental properties. Next slide. The community benefit that the property owner is proposing is that each of these units, these 3 additional units, shall have 2 bedrooms to meet the demands of a growing neighborhood and a growing city. This project did already go to Planning Commission and Historic Landmark Commission, and both commissions agreed that the scale of this development is appropriate and aligns with current and future needs of the community as determined by the general plan. Next slide. Great. Planning staff have received several comments, and they're mixed. Those in favor of this development state that it's a needed housing type. They are excited about the addition of more housing without displacing current residents. They feel that is it consistent with the existing development pattern, and that it is supported by access to high-frequency bus routes. I think the one route along South Temple is one that came up frequently. Those who expressed concerns or are opposed to the project stated potential impacts in terms of privacy, air, and sunlight on immediate neighbors, parking and traffic concerns with additional units, and then those townhomes directly adjacent was a long project that resulted in luxury housing, for sale units at a very high price, and neighbors are fearing that this is going to happen again. And then one final note, that the applicant has worked really closely with planning staff over the last 6 or 7 months. Their original intent was to rezone this property to RMU 35, which is the same as that townhome property, which would allow for a mixed-use development. It would allow for more density, more height, and they had originally wanted to infill with 5 one-bedroom units up to 35 feet. It would also allow them to build right to the property line, and their community benefit would be 1 affordable unit. And there were a lot of reasons that they changed to their current proposal. A lot of it was fire code review, as well as zoning review for what would actually be feasible on the property, as well as the public comments that came in and conversations that the applicant has had with neighbors. And so planning staff has worked with them to change the proposal to rezone to RMF 30, which is a more compatible, lower scale district that would be more compatible with the existing neighborhood. Planning staff recommends that the council approve this zoning request with the condition that the property owner enter into a development agreement with the city council, that the proposed community benefit, which is that all new units shall provide a minimum of 2 bedrooms prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy. Thank you.
So I'll call on myself first. I'm assuming that the garages that will be gone, that's like where the existing residents park.
Yes.
So where will the residents of that apartment building park? Will they just have on-street parking, or?
Yeah, there'd be on-street parking. The final designs for this property are not set, and so I know the architect and the property owner are kind of working to provide additional surface parking on the lot where there is feasibility as well. They're not sure how many spaces they'll be able to provide for those existing residents. at this time.
Okay, so would the residents in the existing apartment building, the one that faces the street, and the residents of these new units will all be having to try to find on-street parking, or no? Do we know that for sure?
So the 3 new units will have garages, and then the 2 detached garages that are in the southeast corner will be retained
Right.
to help offset the demand from the existing fourplex residents.
Okay, okay, so would be basically 2 units in the fourplex that wouldn't have parking. Is that right? Because they're gonna try to keep 2 and,
Correct, or at least covered parking garages.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, and then they would try to add, if they can make room for 2 more stalls, they would try to add that somewhere.
Yeah, they will need to provide the parking for the fourplex, so they need to provide the minimum parking, which I believe is 1.25 stalls. And then through the building preservation incentives, if the applicant chooses to go through that process, they can reduce the bonus units to 0.05 or 0.5 per stall.
Okay.
So it just really depends on what they end up doing.
Okay. And then I couldn't tell from the map, but it looked like there were some residents that talked about light and air obstruction. Looked to me like that would only be like half of one backyard, the one behind, or the one immediately next to the townhomes. Do you have like a better picture or something that would help me on that?
Yeah, looking at the aerial map, it does look like it's just one backyard that's north of the subject site, and then there's those condos.
Okay, I couldn't tell if the property to the east, whether like, because there's several different blocks there, and like what like that, there's like an orange one, and then there's like a purple one.
Yes.
And then it looks like there's an alley maybe.
So RMF 30 also, when it abuts a single family zone, requires a 10-foot landscape buffer. And so that's what the pink is on the far right side.
Okay.
And so that would be further setback from that eastern property.
Okay. I mean, those are the only questions I have. I definitely appreciate the requirement for 2 bedrooms, because I think that really is needed. And yeah, I hope that they can find a way to make the parking work, because it's just tight with how dense those blocks already are. And a lot of the existing houses don't have garages or anything, so I hope they can figure that out. Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you, and appreciate the presentation, Mike. The question for Councilmember Wharton. The one question I have, and I'm looking at this slide here, the backyard setback from the historic building on the west and the surface parking, the gray box. I can't see how, is that 10 feet? Does that have to be 10 or 15 feet or 20 feet from the?
It looks like it's 19 feet from what I'm seeing on the site plan.
Okay, okay. So probably 20 feet setback from the one house. And is there a requirement because they're on the same lot? Is there a requirement for setbacks from the historic building and these apartments?
I don't believe there's a zoning setback, but there would be fire code restrictions.
Oh, there's fire code restrictions. Okay. And so that wouldn't have to be part of the development agreement. That would just strictly, that's part of the zoning side of the house.
Yes.
And I appreciate the development agreement. I think the idea that they have to be 2-bedroom is important to me. I don't want someone to sell this and then put five 1-bedroom places with no parking or something of that nature. So I appreciate the conversation. I don't have any other questions.
Really wish those townhomes to the north were not all vacant. But yeah, no, we can't really do anything about that now. So, okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to a break. Yay! Let's all take, and we're ahead of schedule. So let's all come back at 4. agenda item number 5, which is continuing our budget discussions with the Department of Public Services. So, yay, Public Services, come on down. All right, hold on. Okay. So we've got Kate Werrett, the City Council's policy analyst, Jorge Camoro, the Director of Public Services, Julie Crookston, Deputy Director, and JP, JP, how do you say your last name again? Okay, just like goats. Well, that's what I was gonna say, but then he's gonna be like, it's Gautier. And okay, Director of Public Services, Deputy Director. Sorry. All right, ready.
Great, thank you. We're here today to talk about the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget for public services. They manage the public-facing services. Most of the public-facing services for the city, including the Streets Division, Compliance Division, and they also support many of the internal functions of the city through their facility services, engineering, which we'll be talking about a little bit more in depth, and their administrative services and Fleet Enterprise Fund. Fleet has been briefed separately than this. Today we're going to focus on the general fund divisions. Additionally, the capital improvement program covers a lot of the equipment and infrastructure that public services projects handle. You'll be briefed on that part of public services on June 3rd as part of the CIP program. Their proposed budget is just over $49 million. It's a 6.8% increase, or $3.1 million. That's largely due to shifting of some other city functions to public services. There are a couple policy topics that you may want to discuss after the public service team briefs you. These include the creation of a new clean city team with 5 new full-time employees proposed, as well as a proposed transfer of the engineering division to CAN, and then asset management focusing on streets potentially. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Jorge and his team.
All right, thank you very much, Kate. Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present this budget. As Kate mentioned, this is the one department that is bringing a request for 5 FTEs. This presentation is unfortunately a little bit longer than the fleet presentation, so please bear with us. If you have any questions, let us know. We can stop and answer those questions right away. All right, let's start with the next slide, please. This is just an overview of the department and how it will be restructured should this budget proposal is approved. We will, on your left side, you will see the Compliance Division. We are proposing a change of name to the Urban Services Division. We retain the city architect with the management of construction for publicly owned buildings and assets outside of the right-of-way. All right, next slide, please. All right, and here's the overview of the changes presented in this budget proposal. So we have an increase of $3 million, as Kate mentioned. We have 5 new FTEs proposed in this year's budget, bringing our total count of FTEs to 254, and a total budget of $49,273,000. There are 7 insights that we're going to start with Clean City program in the next slide. As part of the public safety plan presented by the mayor, one of the action items includes the creation of the Clean City team, assessing where is the best location for a team that consolidates all of the cleaning services that the city provides, including the rapid intervention team, SVD, CBD, those are business district maintenance crews, as well as an additional North Temple team, the graffiti removal team from the Public Lands Department, as well as a coordinating team that currently resides in Hart. This is in the CAN department. So consolidating all of those under the umbrella, next slide please, of the newly created Urban Services Division. As you can see, we will have an operations manager that will coordinate the three big pieces of this Clean City program. Graffiti response, right-of-way services, that includes the business districts and the North Temple corridor, as well as the rapid intervention team. It is important to mention, as you can see called out on the right side, the Advantage Services contract will be transferred to Public Services from CAN. Next slide, please. All right, here's a breakdown of the request. We have an additional 3 FTEs for the rapid intervention team, creating a new crew that will be dedicated to support cleanup services outside of the business districts, so illegal dumping, scrubbing of sidewalks, as well as encampment cleanup and mitigation. We have startup costs of $25,000. We also have 2 new FTEs that will be dedicated to the North Temple corridor from 700 West to Redwood Road, providing basic cleaning services, installing new trash cans, removing the trash periodically. That is what these 2 FTEs will be assigned to do. The $124,000 would be ongoing. It's operational funding for this team, as well as an increase in the contract that, as I mentioned a minute ago, will be transferred to Public Services, $750,000. As a reminder, Advantage Services is the city's contract that provides a lot of the bio-waste cleanup as requested. They have a pretty quick response time. Next slide, please. All right, before we go into this new item, any questions on the Clean City team? No questions, excellent. All right, the next initiative is to move the engineering team to CAN. The engineering division will be split, 37 FTEs that oversee the right-of-way construction management and permitting will be moving to the Department of CAN. 13 FTEs will remain in the Public Services Department. This group manages architectural facilities and construction. So anything that has to do with city-owned property that is outside of the right-of-way. In these 13 FTEs, we're including the city architect. This initiative is budget neutral. We're just shifting the current budget from Public Services to CAN. No additional funding needed for this to happen. All right, next slide, please. All right. Our favorite facility, the ballpark. As you know, the University of Utah has concluded their last game. I believe it was last week. They concluded the last game. They're not playing any playoffs, which means this facility will be unactivated from now and in the future. As the CRA engages with the vendor that the city has selected for activation, we are proposing the activation of this space with basic maintenance, utilities, and security to ensure that the facility is usable for that activation. So we have, in the next slide, we have a breakdown of that cost. $789,000 is going to contracted services related to security, general maintenance, and landscape as well. The one-time $6,200 is for changing the locks, ensuring that the property is now in our possession. All right, any questions on that? No questions. Next slide, please. All right, this initiative is to add operational funding to the facilities division, accounting for certain underfunded services. The 300 North pedestrian bridge, it is a beautiful facility. It meets a good purpose. However, it is the victim of vandalism day in, day out. And so keeping up with the maintenance of this facility is becoming a burden for the facilities division. We're asking for some additional funding so they can keep this elevator and facility in good condition. We also added a few police substations last year. There is some funding going there for janitorial and other expenses that we didn't account at the beginning. That is $168,000 ongoing.
Chair, are you okay?
Councilmember Petro.
On this, in those places where we know vandalism recurs, is part of the strategy going to be to do any of those vandalism-resistant treatments to the surfaces so that we're not just doing the same work over and over again?
Yeah, we've looked into several different things we can try and do. Surfaces, cameras, and it's just proving to be expensive either way.
It's expensive?
Very expensive, yeah.
You could like do something that triggers like Barry Manilow blasting at you once you start doing it, maybe do non-traditional things. Right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Dugan.
Could you just expand on the Wasatch Hills Data Center underfunded?
Yeah, Wasatch
Is that
Hills.
the security on Liberty Park area, or?
Janitorial and maintenance. So the building and the systems within the building.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll move to the next slide, please. Oop. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. All right. This initiative is to make our part-time and seasonal employees whole in terms of the cost of living adjustment that the rest of the full-time employees are receiving. As a reminder, our crossing guard program resides in public services, and we have upwards of 80 crossing guards that will be benefited by making this 4% increase in their hourly wage. It makes us remain competitive in the market, keeping our staffing at good level. All right, next slide, please. All right, very recently, Salt Lake County passed an increase on sales tax. The city will receive some funding. $300,000 are being requested in this initiative to go to streets maintenance. The purpose of this funding has been identified as striping redesigns as well as roadway markings, so supplementing the current funding that streets has. All right, next slide. We're almost there. All right. This utility inflation, you have heard it from other departments and other groups. Just the cost of doing business is going up. We are requesting a total increase of $600,000. This is mainly the increases on utilities such as water, sewer, trash collection, gas, and electricity. As a reminder, the facilities division covers the utility payments for most of our city-occupied buildings. All right, next slide, please. This is finally the summary of all of our requests. We're requesting a total of $3,202,224. Do you have any questions in any of these initiatives, Council?
Councilmember Petro.
Thank you all. I'm going to do some nerdy question asking now. You mentioned the HEART team early on as transferring to you, but then I don't see them listed under the Clean City explanation. I would love, and you don't have to do this right now, but I would love additional clarification on how they belong in that. I really love your diagram. It's the first time I've ever seen something that clearly explains what each one does. If I could have some extra clarification on that. Under compliance, on page 235 in the budget book, we are more than doubling the budget for that. We're going from 5 million to 11 million. What can my constituents expect for that? Is this RV compliance? Is this just more, I'm not going to get my blue garbage can collected because there's a pizza box in it? What can I expect?
Yeah, so the compliance division will be renamed to the urban services division because we're adding in the Clean City team to that division. And so the reason for that increase is the budget for Clean City.
Okay, so all of those. My additional question on the right-of-way teams. In North Temple, historically, what happens is you clean one area, you squeeze the sponge, and the water comes out in a different place. We have this problem in the police department where teams become geographically bound, and then they can't follow where the problem is. While I am very enthusiastic that my North Temple neighbors and businesses will have something more predictable, will they have the latitude to go down to Madsen Park, to go up to the northern tip of the fairgrounds, and to move around as we see things? And how far east and west on North Temple are we talking?
I'm going to take that one on. So the two staff that are going to be dedicated to North Temple will be mainly checking on the newly installed trash cans and litter control on North Temple corridor, and that will not change. However, with the addition of the rapid intervention team, if things are popping up outside of these sort of designated geographical areas, they are citywide. So the rapid intervention team receives a report that Madsen Park is seeing illegal dumping. They will be able to be dispatched over there and do it. So the addition of 3 staff will help us cover more of those areas without taking from some place to move it to another.
Do we expect that centralizing their dispatch will put the rapid in rapid intervention?
Yeah, one of the main goals of creating this Clean City team is now everything will be under one umbrella. Coordination of services, response to reports, as well as communication with every team that provides a cleaning service for the city. So now I think you all will see a benefit in terms of you don't have to speak with Parks and Public Lands for graffiti, and then for how often do you get requests from constituents. Everything will be in one umbrella. And so
I have one more nerdy question. I see that our debt principal has gone down and that our debt interest and fiscals is going way down. Does that represent the end of the road bond? What is the debt principal and interest being paid on right now?
We don't. Do you want to go ahead?
Can you speak into a microphone? And introduce
This is
yourself for the record.
Kim Smerling, our financial manager.
Thank you.
I'm Kimberly Spelling, the financial manager for public services, and the debt management is related to leased vehicles.
Leased vehicles.
Largely leased vehicles. And
Okay.
because we've taken a position of not leasing vehicles because they really are a lease to own and are not fiscally responsible, I guess. They don't afford us any benefits.
So then, is it reasonable for us to expect this to continue to decline and go away? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Councilmember Dugan.
Thanks, and appreciate the conversation. And we really didn't touch too much on the street side of the house, and I've sent out a bunch of questions on the street side of the house. And it's always been a topic for me we need to get over the hump because our streets are not improving across the board. Our funding's not there to improve. And we can't even stay on the surface right now. It seems like our streets are slowly getting in disrepair, and more streets are falling into the below 40 OCI category, and which are the most expensive categories, as we're all aware of. And I appreciate the goal of, now the goal is 120. Now I'm going to go above the 40, because the 40 OCI is streets is above, engineering is below, right? So the above 40 OCI, which is your street side of the house. And if I remember in 2020 when I first took office, I thought the goal was like 135 or so miles. I'm seeing that the goal right now is 120 lane miles per year. Whether it was 135 and it's 120, it's still well above what we're hitting now. And it seems like, looking at the data, we haven't even come close to that goal over the last 3 years. We were in 20, we were at 123 miles. In 21, we were at 143. 22, 133. But in 23, we were at 89. 24, 85. Projected for 25 is also 85. Yes, we had some changes there, but we also added the mill overlay equipment. And then we had an equipment failure. But so my question is that we have all these projects out there, but how do we hit our goal? Because the mill is only 10 miles out of that 120. And there's probably 50 miles or more that need to be done. And one of my questions is, how do we make it 15 miles? And I think one of the answers was that we don't have the FTs and we don't have the equipment. So how much is if we were to get another mill overlay piece of equipment to increase those lane miles, just on that portion of it, and how many FTs do we need to run that machine? And then on the chip seal and other things, how do we get over this hump from 85 and go back to what our goal is of 120? Because that would really, that seemed to me, make a big difference in that top 40, which then make our streets a lot better, and also the lifespan go further.
Okay. I think we can answer that question in two parts. Okay. The first one, I'm going to say that what you refer as to the over 40 and streets, the improvement that streets will make on a surface treatment is nominal, but it's crucial, right? So they don't slide. Yes. But it's nominal. The roads that are eligible for streets maintenance surface treatments are not the roads that you're hearing from your constituents, right? And so what do we need to bring it over that hump? And I think it is, those treatments are very expensive. They deeper mill and overlays are that our streets division is unable to do. And you will see in CIP there's a request for 3.5 million to go to those type of overlays. The street reconstruction is another one. There is an intentional effort to switch now into more neighborhood roads, so dedicate the funding that would be for reconstructions to go into neighborhood roads, those that are way below, that it seems easier to address because it's not as disruptive. It's more fast-paced, the replacement of a road in a neighborhood than a collector on arterial. So there is that one. And then I'm going to let Julie just talk a little bit about why the variance between the projected goal, which is 120, and I think it is still an achievable goal for streets, but I'll let Julie talk about a little bit there.
Yeah, thank you. The different types of treatment between chip seal and slurry seal and mill and overlay, chip seal and slurry seal are very weather dependent. Like they're very finicky with the weather. So for a chip seal, the temperature of the ground has to be at a consistent warmth for a while. So for example, in the last 2 weeks, we reached 80 degrees for a couple days, but we then plummeted again to 60 for a few days. And so the temperature of the ground hasn't maintained long enough for them to start a chip seal treatment yet. And so the variance that you see between the years has a lot to do with the weather, because when we have a very warm spring, a very hot summer, and a very warm fall, it extends the period that the crews can perform those treatments, and so they're able to do a lot more. A few years ago, we recognized that the weather was kind of, restricting what we could do, and that mill and overlays could help catch some of the roads that were deteriorating, but before they dropped below that 40 OCI. So we added in that treatment type. However, it takes almost 4 times as long to perform as a slurry or a chip seal treatment. And so if we had ideal weather conditions, we'd be able to do a lot of all of them and address a lot of the roads. When we don't have ideal weather conditions, the crews pivot and focus on mill and overlay as well as inlays. An inlay is the same treatment as a mill and overlay, but it only focuses on a lane mile, like the width of the lane, rather than the curb to curb. So the crews are still being productive and using the equipment and spending their time focusing on the treatment types, but the overall number of lane miles that we perform a surface treatment on when the weather is bad decreases a little because the mill and overlay just takes that much longer. It's also more expensive.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I've thought through this all of that. But when I look at the data, the chip seals, we've gone from 50 and 60 miles in the last couple of years. We haven't even hit 30 miles. So our summer and our spring seems like it's going extended, but our chip seals lanes have gone from 60 to less than 25. And so I have a hard time thinking that we didn't have 2 weeks of coverage, and I'm kind of like, are we being over conservative on this? Yeah, it's 80 degrees and it drops to 60. You close it and it extends it. So I'm hesitant to think that we need a full 2 weeks. It may take, instead of 21 days, it may take 25 days, 26 days, but we're going from 60 days, 60 lane miles to 22 lane miles. Those don't add up to me because our summer and our spring and our fall are extending. So those don't add up to me. So I really want to really press hard on that. On this side of the house, because you're right. These are the streets that everyone's not complaining. They're not complaining about these streets. But if we don't take care of these streets, they're going to fall into the point where it's going to cost us $1 million per lane mile instead of $20,000 per lane mile. So we really need to make sure that these are top notch, so they stay top notch. Because that 10 points of OCI is a big deal. From 40 to 30, that's a huge increase. So I really want to make sure that we have enough employees. Do we need another FTE? Do we need another piece of equipment? Maybe not this fiscal year. Do we need a second piece of equipment? So if one does break, it doesn't shut down the whole operations. Having only one airplane, but you need one airplane fully mission capable 100 times 100% of the time ain't gonna happen. So let's have 2 airplanes, or not in this case, 2 mill and overlays. And then I guess we'll have a further discussion on the below 40% with the engineering group, because that's bigger bucks. I'm not sure, I don't really want to have that conversation at this point about bonding and other things. And then I think Councilman Mono brought up with the conversation when we had on this work, the width of the road. Okay, some of our roads are really wide, and the conversation was like, hey, we don't need to do the whole full width. If we're going to look at some street calming initiatives or some street reduction initiatives, we don't have to work on 40 feet wide lane or 40 foot wide street. We need to work on a 32 foot wide street. And so we don't have to spend that extra money on that extra 8 feet of lane that we don't need. So again, more conversations, but I really want to focus on this because we got 8 years to the Olympics and our streets aren't going to get any better shape, and it's going to just get more and more expensive.
If I can just add one thing. In part of the CIP request this year includes funding for road condition assessment, which will throw up everything that we have done over the last 4 years and create a strategy for the next 8-10 years. So it will be a very interesting exercise to realize how much have we moved the needle with the funding in maintenance, but also in reconstructions. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Can I ask this in a most supportive way possible? How committed are we to the name Urban Services? Because I love the idea and this is a great program and all of that. But to me, if I'm a constituent and I see urban services, I feel like it does not tell me anything about what I'm looking for or what might be in there. And then I also think it's kind of confusing because, I mean, we're all of our services are urban services. So is there a way that we can better communicate what we're consolidating with a different title? Just a suggestion, not something I can make you do. But feedback from me is when I read that, I was like, I feel like I'm going to get a ton of questions about what is urban services, or when I'm going to refer people to something, I'm going to say, go to urban services, and they're going to be like, what?
Can I also add that putting the cleaning services there and the things for the west side, it caused me to cringe.
Okay, yeah, so it could be a little problematic too, it sounds like.
Thank you for amplifying. I wasn't going to bring it up.
But I love the idea and I love all the effort, but I think maybe we can probably come up with something that better communicates what it is. Just a thought. Again, totally supportive. Love you all. Other questions? Okay. Thank you. We appreciate
Always a pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, we are at, agenda item number 6, which is a board appointment, and we're really far ahead. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're not available. Is Lila here? No, okay. Is Michael here? No, okay. Jeffrey? No? Okay. So we're going to take a break, and everybody come back at 4:55 exactly. It's 20 minutes. Okay, thanks.
you
We're back. Let's go with our first. Yeah, but I'm just wondering why Jesse is so eager to be at the table. Yes. Okay. All right. Lila Rosenfeld. All right. Just have a seat wherever you like. And so this is your chance to tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in serving on the Planning Commission, and if you want to talk about your professional background or whatever, and then if you feel comfortable sharing what part of the city you're from. I believe you're from my district, but... Mine. Oh. Mine. Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks. All right, fine. Either way. Yeah, so go ahead.
Well, thank you, Council. I unfortunately do not have any prepared remarks, but I guess I'll speak from the heart. I'm Lila Rosenfield. I use she, her pronouns. I am a professional planner, so in my day job, I actually work at the Utah Transit Authority. Educated at Cornell University in urban and regional studies, but I grew up in Salt Lake City. My family moved up to Park City when I was a teenager, and I moved back down to District 4, a couple blocks away from here, actually. And ultimately, I guess I would say that Salt Lake is my city, right? I love this place. I feel like I care deeply about this place. I feel connected to this place. I was watching last week, I believe it was last week, when the new flags were adopted and how they are meant to include and speak to everybody who is in this city. I really felt seen in that, felt heard in that, because I am a member of the LGBTQ community, and feeling like I have a place, this flower in the desert, as it were, where I am able to thrive and able to be myself, and also able to care for my community. And I think I would say that everybody in Salt Lake is my community. I'm a renter, so I think I bring a really solid combination of both professional experience as a planner and lived experience as somebody who rents in this city, as somebody who is growing up, who is maybe hoping to start a family, but who has not yet done so. So I think that there's a really solid opportunity for me on the Planning Commission to bring both of those sort of forms of knowledge to bear to help make this city the best place it can be.
Great. Thank you. Great remarks, especially for being unprepared. Council members, do you have any questions for Lila?
Oh,
yes.
Chair?
Councilmember.
I have to correct the record. Lila's always prepared, so that's just untrue.
Yeah.
Okay? No, I'm really excited, Lila. Thanks for, one, volunteering your services and your expertise to our district and to our city. I've gotten to know Lila over the course of serving as a council member and working specifically and being challenged by Lila, quite frankly, on understanding municipal bonding, understanding regional planning, understanding the experiences of those that are indignant and populations that are experiencing different lived capacities in the city, whether you're chronically unsheltered or you're somebody that's a renter that's experiencing the high cost of living, or you're somebody that's looking to become an anchored resident in District 4. These are the urban experiences of our city, but especially of the downtown. So I'm really excited by this, by the proposal of Lila joining the Planning Commission. I think that this is the type of thoughtfulness and lived experience that we need representing us on the Planning Commission, especially as we look as a council and cohort and body to enrich our core with better development, better beautification, better design, and better review and our planning. Those are my comments, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just say I'm excited to have you on the Planning Commission. Thanks for being willing to serve there.
Thank you. So we will place your name on our consent agenda for adoption at our formal meeting, and you need not be present to win, but you're of course welcome to come to our formal meeting. But yeah, it'll just be at the end of the agenda, and thank you so much for being willing to serve the residents of Salt Lake.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, next we have Michael Vila, or Vela? Vila? Vela, okay.
Good evening. I didn't prepare anything, but I had a job of not a few things, and so I will give you a little bit of time.
Okay.
I'm a senior architect at HKS Architects. Been with HKS, this is now my 40th year. I have lived in Texas, California, in Utah.
Sorry. Make sure
Oh,
the.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
So I've lived in Utah. Okay. Did you hear the first part?
You're good, yeah.
Okay. So I moved here 26 years ago. The story that I tell is that the president of our firm and my wife colluded, and that he knew she was from Utah, and he wanted to open up an office here. So it was a quick sell, you know, honey, they want us to move to Utah. I will say that I have been here for 26 years, and I've absolutely fallen in love with everything Utah. I have worked in 28 states, and working in Utah is completely different than some of the other states that I have worked in. It's just a very different place. Asked about why I want to do this. I've been on the Historic Landmark Commission for 1.5 terms, so that would be right at about 6 years. And when I heard that this position was available, I thought I would slide over. And then it's for the same reasons that I wanted to be on the commission, that I wanted to be a part of a city that was changing and morphing and being everything that it can be. And I'll use the words of Hamilton. I want to be in the room where the decisions are made. And there's a lot of decisions that are made here, and we're, using the words that, I can't remember her name now, but she talked about how Salt Lake is changing, and that the next 20 years will be the same kind of change that Denver went through in its 20 years of growth. And Natalie Goucher. And Natalie talked about how Salt Lake is kind of not even in the adolescent phase of that growth. And I want to be a part of that growth and help, and being able to use what I have learned over the last 40 plus years being an architect, and being able to help shape our city.
Thank you so much. Any questions, Mr. Bella? Yes.
Mr. Chair, these are comments, but I just want to say thank you to Michael, again, for your services, for your charity, for establishing your presence here in Salt Lake City. Latino, architect, immense lived experience, strategy, an artist, a poet in his own right. So I just think this is wonderful. I think this is an example of District 4 excellence and what happens when we open the gates for public servants to step in. You don't have to be an elected official to serve your community. There are so many ways that we respond, and Mike is one of the people that I know I can turn to, whether it's as a neighbor, as a resident, as somebody that's an elected official representing this district, for grant advice. And he's someone that I want representing us on the Planning Commission, especially as we consider big projects like the Capital City Revitalization Area Plan, our Main Street Promenade, the revitalization of the Civic Campus and beyond, thinking about these very specific neighborhoods that are enriching amenities for families, but also creating new opportunities of economic mobility and these third spaces for Salt Lakers to become and be a part of and enrich this community. So I'm so grateful, and I'm so excited by the last two candidates. Thank you, Mike.
Councilmember Petro.
I had the honor of serving on Historic Landmark Commission. I'm pretty sure Mike and I made the chair want to pull his hair out a few times. One of the things I really love about your service, Mike, is that you are so insightful and creative, as you would expect from your field, but you also understand your responsibility in not confusing service with personal activism, understanding that shaping and your preference are tangentially combined, but you're building a space for everyone. And you and I got to preserve history for everyone together. And I remember you and I had a couple really difficult deliberations where if we had our way, we would have gone guns blazing, but still operating within the structures that protect all of us, that create the predictability that you need for municipal order. You found such creative solutions to help us get to the ends that we wanted. And I really think that your insight's going to be valuable on the Planning Commission when it feels like a generational decision is in front of them every month. And I know the limitations of the structure can be really, really frustrating, but you understand how to use your passions to fuel the change and the shaping, as opposed to allowing them to stand in tension with each other. So,
I thank you for that. I think the Historic Landmark Commission taught me that we need to stay in our lanes. We need to remember and remind ourselves what we're here to do, and stay in our purview. And so I have been listening and watching this commission, the Planning Commission, for the last month or so. It's the same thing, that you have to detach yourself about what's good for the city, what's good for my neighborhood, what's good for me. They have to be a little bit separate. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. You heard we're going to place your name on our consent agenda. You're welcome to join us at that meeting, but you don't need to. So we'd love to, and we want to thank you for your willingness to serve the residents of Salt Lake City.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Jeffrey Barrett. Oh, he's online. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello. Thanks everyone for having me today and allowing me to introduce myself. I know a number of you personally from my experience over the last few years. I'll just jump in. So I have lived in Salt Lake City for about 15 years now. I am a resident of District 5. I live just between 9th and 9th and Liberty Park there on Lake Street. It's a wonderful street, a lot of elementary school age kids. I have two children who attend Emerson Elementary. They're 7 and 9. Professionally, my background is kind of an interesting one. I grew up in Virginia, got a graduate degree at the University of Virginia in urban and environmental planning. So I have an educational background in this area. But my career path went a different way. I have become sort of a energy and utilities expert. From 2011 to 2016, I was the deputy director of Governor Herbert's energy office, which works closely with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, et cetera. Then I went on to Rocky Mountain Power, where I was in regulation for a number of years. And then in my last year and a half or so there, the company changed my role and had me be, as you may recall, Chair Wharton, the company's point person for the Salt Lake City Council, the mayor, the various department heads. I worked on everything from with Nick on sort of ground-mounted utility box policy and how that all worked with the new development coming in, and wildfire mitigation projects in the foothills, economic development of all kinds. Council member Dugan, you may remember interacting with me after the windstorm in 2020. So those were my years at Rocky Mountain Power. And since then, I've been government affairs and regulatory affairs director at a large independent power producer, clean energy producer. We develop wind and solar projects across the country, but I represent them before public utilities commissions in the 11 Western states and some Plains states, and then also work with the legislatures in the various states in the West where we have development activities. But I'm really interested in this position or this opportunity because, I have what I see as a somewhat underutilized educational background in this area, a passion for Salt Lake City, my adopted home, and, to echo some of the previous candidates' comments, this is a time when it's impossible not to notice, the level of activity and investment and growth in the city right now. And I can't imagine a more interesting and impactful time to be a part of this body and to help, in a gentle way, help direct the city and its growth forward, for my children and for all of our families and communities. So I think, again, lacking prepared remarks, that's what I have for you today. And I appreciate your consideration and time.
All right, thank you. We have some great extemporaneous speakers tonight. But yes, it's good to see you again, Jeffrey. Any questions for Jeffrey? All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions. Did you hear the instructions about the consent agenda tonight?
I did, and I apologize I couldn't be there in person. I'm in Phoenix for work today, but yeah, I appreciate your letting me join via Zoom.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for your willingness to serve Salt Lake City. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next is a Bicycle Advisory Committee appointment, Esther Durancy Young. Hello. Just make sure that microphone is on and then tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve on this committee.
Awesome. Yep, that works. I'm Esther. I'm a librarian across the street. Luckily, on my lunch break, I could be here in person. I'm a biker. I've lived here off and on for about 10 years. I grew up in Seattle, which is a very different biking infrastructure, but the benefit of Salt Lake is that we're pretty flat. And so biking can be really approachable for all ages and stages. And so I think that's what I'm passionate about. We've done a lot of improvements since I've started living here, and I can't wait to see what's next.
All right, great. Any questions, anyone for Esther? Do you know which district you're representing on the board?
I have the glory of being a renter, and I'm currently in District 4, but next month I'm moving somewhere else.
Okay. Great.
It's going to be D1, right? Right? Come on, over to D1.
So,
All right. Well, did you hear the instructions about the meeting tonight?
yes.
Okay, great. Well, we'll place your name on the consent agenda, and thank you so much for your willingness to serve Salt Lake.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, we've got, Jesse, now you can come on up and join us for our follow-up discussion on fiscal year 2025-26 proposed budget public engagement info for the Department of Public Utilities.
All right. Thank you, council members. As Public Utilities is setting up, I'll just provide a quick introduction. Public Utilities is here for a follow-up briefing on its proposed FY 2025-2026 budget and to explain the proposed utility rate changes. As you'll recall, we held an initial briefing on the proposed budget last month, and today Public Utilities will dive a little bit deeper into the proposed rate changes, discussing what rates are changing and why. They'll also go over how the proposed changes might affect customer utility bills. In the weeks following the initial April 15th briefing, Public Utilities has been collaborating with the Mayor's Office, the Communications and Engagement Team in IMS, and council staff through a series of meetings focused on ways to effectively communicate these rate impacts. I want to acknowledge Public Utilities staff and the Mayor's Office for their leadership in assembling this team and working to make this information easy to understand and accessible on the city's website. And just with that quick context, I'll turn it over to Laura and her team, who will explain the proposed rate changes in detail. And we've reserved some time at the end for questions and discussion. Thanks.
Thank you for having us back and to talk about rate changes. And I just wanted to underscore what Austin said. We had a great team of people, many of them here this evening, working with us tirelessly on improving our communications and making things a little bit more clear. So I think there is a presentation there. Yep. And so I quickly wanted to go through to the next slide, please. Some of our, just some of the detail of the structural changes for each of the utilities. We'll talk about our water rate changes, then our sewer rate changes, then our stormwater rate changes, and we can just spend very, very briefly some street lighting rates, and then we'll spend the bulk of the time on understanding our rate impacts. Next slide, please. So we'll start with our water utility rate changes, and we'll go over the monthly water rate, which is the fixed fee on people's bills, residential usage rates, non-residential usage rates, and then some example impacts of rate changes. Next slide, please. So the monthly water charge is proposed to change this year in the new structure. Just by background, a monthly charge is the fixed fee based on meter size. That monthly charge reflects the fixed costs of utility operations and infrastructure. The monthly water charge applies to both residential and non-residential customers. And different from last year, the rate stabilization is removed. And so last year, the monthly charge consisted of two different rates. One was the monthly fixed charge and one was the stabilization fee. And so we don't have the stabilization fee removed, and we've adjusted the monthly water charge, which is proposed to be less this year with the removal of the stabilization fee. And we have on each of these slides a chart of what those charges are in comparison by meter size. So for instance, a 3/4 inch meter, which is the majority of our single family residential customers, the 2025 monthly water charge was $24.33, and the 2026 monthly charge is $22.48. Next slide, please. And then we have also, as part of our monthly water bills, water usage rates. That reflects the volume of water that's used each month. The new proposed rate structure maintains the inclining block rate structure that we have in the existing rates. An inclining block rate structure means that the more water you use, the more you pay per unit in each block. So we're still maintaining a 4-block rate structure. However, the two differences will be that the block rates apply year-round rather than in summer only, and there is less water usage in each block. So, for instance, in the 2025 rate structure, Block 1 was the usage was 1 to 100 cubic feet, and in the 2026 rate structure, the usage was 1 to 500 cubic feet. The rates will also change in each block 2 per 100 cubic feet. So there's a little bit of an increase in each rate per 100 cubic feet. Next slide, please. Non-residential and multifamily volume-based rates or usage rates are also proposed to change. And this is actually quite a large change for non-residential and multifamily usage rates, in that the block rates will no longer apply to those customers, and instead we will have what's called a uniform rate structure, one rate in the winter time and then a higher rate in the summertime. Next slide, please. And then we've provided, this is a chart taken out of our budget book. We've provided some example monthly water rate change impacts. Later in this presentation, we'll actually go through a rate calculator that we've prepared where people can plug in their own usage numbers. But I wanted to provide a little bit of explanation around the terms used in this type of impact chart. This is one that we've used every year so that we have consistency year over year. You'll see that there are residential minimum, low, medium, and high uses. Minimum and low residential use usually reflects indoor household consumption. Medium and high residential use usually reflects a combination of both indoor and outdoor water consumption. Now, there is a lot of variation on our system, and even minimum and low residential use can also reflect some outdoor water consumption. It just really depends on the household, the unique water consumption of each household. Non-residential uses can vary greatly depending on how the water is being consumed. We have a couple of examples in this chart. One is an industrial use that is a very large water user, and we have a commercial use that is sort of a mid-range volume water user. So for minimum and low residential use, we'll see a rate change on the order of about $3 to $6 per month in increase, and that really reflects, again, what many typically use indoors. Next slide, please. And now we'll go to our sewer rate changes. And again, we'll talk about the monthly sewer charge, and then usage and flow rates, and then our high-strength charges based on water quality. Next slide, please. So similar to the water charges, our monthly sewer charge is a fixed fee that reflects more of the fixed costs of operating the utility. And the monthly sewer charge is based on dwelling unit for residential and equivalent residential unit for non-residential customers. Again, similar to the water utility, the rate stabilization fee is removed. So in 2025, on the left, that base fee by meter size, it no longer applies, and instead we have a base fee or a monthly sewer charge by dwelling unit. Just for explanation purposes, one equivalent residential unit is equal to 400 cubic feet of usage for that non-residential class. Next slide, please. And then similar to water, we also base our monthly charges on flow rates or usage. The structural change, there's a pretty large structural change in the rate structure for this utility as well, where the change goes from a waste strength class to a uniform usage flow rate. We decided to make that change because from a regulatory perspective, we are required to regulate for 2 more different pollutants in the system, and that created a lot of different types of classes that we would essentially charge for, and it just became very unwieldy. This is also a more fair and equitable structure. The other change we have, we still base that sewer usage rate on annual monthly winter consumption, but we're reducing the months in which we base that rate to December, January, and February. Another change is that the rate for multifamily and commercial use would be based on 70% of the actual water use rather than an annual winter consumption. Next slide, please. Also in our new sewer rate structure, we're proposing water quality rates for high-strength dischargers. This already exists, but it's based on a class structure, and will go to a different type of structure that is a per unit cost per pollutant. This is a special class of high-strength dischargers where we actually monitor the waste strength and work with those customers on mitigating the waste that goes into the system. Our high-strength dischargers are primarily industrial as well. Next slide, please. So an example monthly sewer rate change for residential purposes. Again, we have that minimum, low, medium, and high use. And we can see that for minimum use, we're actually looking at a slight decrease in the monthly charge, and then ranging from about $248, $250 to $850 per month, depending on usage. I didn't put examples of rate changes for industrial and other non-residential uses because there's such variability across the system. But we are currently working with a lot of these clients on a one-on-one basis, particularly institutional clients, customers, and other businesses. Next slide, please. So real quick on stormwater and street lighting rate changes. Next slide. The stormwater charge is proposed with a 5% increase to the monthly charge. The rate structure for this has always just been a uniform rate based on impermeable area, and we're not recommending any significant changes to this rate structure. Our rate study did recommend that we reduce our stormwater credit program to better match the cost of service. The stormwater credit reduction will be phased in, so we don't do the whole credit reduction program all at once. So we're planning to phase that in over 3 years. Next slide, please. And then for our monthly street lighting charge, no structural changes to the street lighting charge. We're proposing a 15% increase in the monthly charge, which for base street lighting, which is the majority of our customers, would equate to 68 cents per month. The group 1, 2, and 3 rates, that is the enhanced street lighting within our service area, and a lot of that is in the commercial areas, although we do have some residential enhanced street lighting as well. Next slide. And so I'm happy to take any questions right now. We do have, as part of this presentation, a walkthrough of our website resources and our rate calculator. And just wanted to point out too that anyone who has an account with Public Utilities has access to a customer portal where a lot of information can be found about your own individual water use, historic water use and sewer use and charges. It's a very great tool, and in addition, for those who have a smart meter installed, which is about half of our service area so far, about 45,000 out of the 90,000 meters, there are some additional tools to monitor water usage in real time. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jesse to run through our website resources and rate calculator.
So I'll pull up the rate calculator first. I've got a selection of bills that we went into. I've got my own here. I think I've got some council staff. I've got some other public utility staff. And I'll just run through a few, or one or two, however you want to look at, bills for both wintertime and summertime. And then the calculator can show what it looks like compared to the current rates and what it looked like going forward. If someone goes in and does this on their own, their current rate might not be to the decimal point, because the tool is based on a month, and sometimes meter reads are done on, say, 30 days or 31 or 28 days, so there might be a little variance, but it'll be close. The other thing, if someone goes through this and it just doesn't work out, they can always call our department, and it might be because they are in an area that is tied to one of our historic irrigation exchange contracts, and that means they may have a special rate for some of those, whether it's a water rate or a meter rate. But for the majority of our single-family duplex and triplex, this will work. All right, so I just picked one here. What we can do is you go through this. We can pick water and sewer if they're in the city, or water if they're in the county. Because remember, we do water throughout much of the county. Ooh, this is a fast mouse. Not my mouse.
Jesse's using my turn.
You can then pick city or county right here. Pick a residential or multifamily. I'm going to pick winter, because that's the first one I'm looking at. Then you can pick meter size. It's on the bill. This is a 3/4 inch meter. And going into the water section of this, you can figure out how many units they used. So this person used, there's one dwelling unit because it's a single family residence. So you can change that if it's a triplex or a duplex. Go in here, I'll put 5 in for that. And then for their average monthly water consumption is also on here in the sewer section, and that is 9. So again, this is city resident. I'm looking at both water and sewer. Residential, I'm looking at the wintertime bill, a 3/4 inch meter, 1 dwelling for the home, 5 CCF in this month. This is like a February month, and then 9 for the AWC. I hit calculate, and it will come in, and gotta hide you all somehow. There we go. So I can get it up here. I'll hide you even more so I can see all the things. So it comes through the old structure. It shows what the fixed charge is versus the new fixed charge. Rate stabilization fee, again, that doesn't show up in the new structure. Usage charge on both, and then a total water. And I compare this to the old one, and that's about spot on. It's a few cents off here and there. And then you go to winter, or you go to sewer, and you got the fixed charge, There's stabilization fee, usage charge, and you can see this account is going up a little bit on water and about $10 on sewer. So it's a really easy tool to use if you go through these. I can run through one, maybe I'll run through one more at least. Or actually, I'll do this same one on summertime, so you can see how this person's doing on summer usage. So again, summertime, I'll go back onto their bill and find out they use 23 units in the summertime. Average winter consumption doesn't change, and you hit calculate the charge, and you can see it's a little bit different in the summer, again, because of the usage. They've gone up from 82 to 112, and then another $10 on their sewer. So it's a pretty easy tool to use. Again, like I said, it won't be to the decimal point on current, because it is an estimating tool. And then if you're in one of those oddball locations, you might just have to call and we can give you the special parameters for your account. So, do you want me to run through one more?
Yeah.
Or 10 more? I've got a few. I was so excited to get up here.
Yeah, I know.
I heard that you all were ahead of schedule, so I thought we were up.
Yeah.
All right, I can do one more.
Yeah.
So again, water, sewer, again, resident. I'll do a triplex this time. If I can find the triplex in here. So triplex here, the only difference is water, sewer, so they're in the city, residential, again, in the city. I'll do wintertime first. They have a 3/4 inch meter for this triplex. I'll change this to 3. Their usage was 13, and their average winter consumption was 16. So again, this is a wintertime bill, so the average winter consumption comes out pretty close. Calculate charges, and you can read through those. Again, it's going up about $6 on water and $28 on sewer. I'll do this summertime for this same location. Switch over to summer. And I just got these. You can get these out of your portal. So I went through my portal and got these, and you can get a good history of all of your usage. 21 for this in the summertime. So everything stays the same except consumption, which was 21. And you can see again about a $10 change in water and the same change in sewer as we go forward. So, all right. This will be going, I'm not sure this is live yet. We're still working out a few things, but it should be tomorrow we'll have it live. Yep.
Yeah. Council Member Lopez Chavez and then Dugan.
Thank you. I love this tool. I think that's really great. I just want to run through, this is a concern that comes up, is obviously water rate changes, and I've always appreciated
Council Chair.
Sorry, I thought I was on. I've always appreciated the transparency of this, and my question was going to be if this tool has been marketed and how we're making sure that we engage community members so that they know they can go in and estimate for their personal finances and begin to adjust to these cost of living expenses. And just want to ask again, just to reiterate for the record, these costs are related to the increase of infrastructure needs. Is that correct?
Yeah, largely related to infrastructure, particularly aging infrastructure, and then compliance with new regulations.
Again, I think that we're becoming better consumers, and this is a necessary justification to increase these services related to water use in our city. So thank you to your team. This is a great tool.
Thanks.
I can also run through our website briefly if you want me to.
Oh, sure. Do you want to ask your question first?
Just a comment. So I just want to say my thanks to coming up to the town hall and having that discussion. And also, we have a couple unique HOAs, and I appreciate you working with the HOAs on their usage and their bill and moving forward there, because they're I would say one-offs compared to the rest of us, and I appreciate your working with them on alleviating the challenges that they have. But again, as you said in the presentation, you always do, it's a terrible business model. You want people to conserve water, but you also need to pay for this stuff. So this also drives us to conserving water too. So it has a great effect, and I really appreciate your work. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know Councilmember Pui has his hand up. Do you want to wait until they go through the website, or do you want to comment now?
if you're okay,
Yeah,
allow
go
me.
ahead.
Thank you. I love this tool. I think it adds transparency to the process and trying to explain the changes more clearly. I wish we had, you know, many. I guess it shows you how old I am. But for those that remember Clippy in Microsoft, one of the most amazing things that Microsoft used to do with Clippy was it was that paperclip that used to be floating around, and it will ask you, like, it will tell you useful tips. It will help you understand what you were doing there. A Clippy type of situation there, where it defines what those titles were in the previous tab, in the previous image that you were showing. Is what does it mean new structure, what does it mean old structure? I feel like adding a little more definitions in there, I think that might be helpful for a lot of people that may be using this tool. I know that may add a lot of complexity to the website, that maybe a simple definitions link may be useful. And secondary to the changes on the things that the works that the public works is doing, relates to communications to me, and I'm hoping that in the next little while we can coordinate a little better between the council and the council communications and your communications and IMS, if they're involved, to do some work together on communicating with our neighbors the reason for these changes, the purpose for the money, and the accountability that the department has to use the resources.
I think I got most of that. The point about the terminology is a really good one, and we are constantly working on that. I'll say we have a lot of regulatory requirements that often require us to use certain terminology in certain ways. But the example that you just raised, council member, about the use of the word structure, probably a simpler terminology would be new rates, old rates, right? So we can make those kinds of changes, and we're happy to continue refining the language in our website and other publications to the extent that we can. And then I also wanted to say on the coordination part, this was a really, really good experience for us in coordinating with council staff and our IMS staff and our citywide communications staff and our internal engagement and our finance staff. It was really a great team. And so I think, we have a lot of great lessons learned, and we'll continue to improve our coordination and work hard on things together like this.
All right, now let's go to the website.
So if you do what have I done? Went back to the Zoom. So if you go to, just do a Google search of Salt Lake City Public Utilities, you'll probably land on this page. This gives you all sorts of information on the utility, how to get hold of us, how to do grandmas. For the rates themselves, you want to go down to this tab just underneath Pay My Bill. And this gets you to our upcoming rate changes. It's got a lot about how to learn about your bill and meter size with some links. If you want to have a smart meter installed, what you can do with that. Here's kind of a dashboard you can get once you have access to your portal, and you can get in there, set targets, do those sorts of things. Find out a lot of information about your account, and then go back in time and get that usage so you can do some of the comparisons. So if someone wants to use a rate calculator, they can go in here, find out what their use might have been last August, and just assume that might be similar to this coming August, and you can get a comparison of the current structure versus the proposed structure. Same for the winter time. Again, wire rate changes, we can go through this, learn about those. Again, a lot of what Laura just talked about is in text here. I'll just kind of scroll through this, what this can mean for you. Again, more links to how the rates will affect you. How are they decided? So we've got actual links to the study itself. You can actually find a draft copy of some of our slides from the last council work session. You can actually find information on
The rate advisory.
The rate advisory committee. I mean, there's just so many different things you can find here. Here's the rate document study. So if you want to read the whole thing, here's the draft from our consultants. So it's just got a lot of information across this with multiple links. You can kind of dive in as deep as you want to, or kind of use some of the hot buttons to find the information you're truly looking for. So.
Councilmember Young.
So I love this and I love the calculator. I am wondering if there's an opportunity to include like a link to it in the upcoming bills, you know, where it's like, here's a chance to learn about the calculator, you know, or learn more about rates here. Like, just because I feel like that's maybe an underutilized mechanism of education related to some of these changes, and just like even typing out the hyperlink.
Okay. Yeah. And it's not on here yet, but it's not live, but that's hoping to happen in the next couple of days. So we'll probably put that kind of front and center.
The rate calculator. The other thing that will be on the website too is actually a bill explanation. Mm-hmm. So what do all the things on your bill mean? And we're just finalizing that as well. So that'll be part of this whole presentation.
Our bill includes water, sewer, stormwater, street lighting, also sanitation, and a franchise fee. So there's a lot to explain on our bill.
Yeah, I just, I guess I think about it both proactive and reactive. Like, if I'm looking at my bill, that's when I'm like, what is this? You know? And so to be like, learn more here, you're like, okay. And I think that may diffuse at least a lot of the incoming traffic in terms of being like, well, how was I supposed to know? So that would be just a thought.
Great.
I also want to just add my thanks, especially for the calculator tool. I think that's great. And for the reminder for residents to use their portal for, you know, you can do more there than just pay your bill. That's what I use it for, but I forget that you have all those features. So thank you for that reminder as well. And I don't think I have any other questions.
Councilmember Pooh still has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Still has another question, or?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Pui, did you have another question?
Maybe he's just up.
Okay, maybe not.
Put it back down.
Okay. All right. Looks like we don't have any more. Thank you again so much for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So, council members, we have written briefings for the Justice Court and for compliance with rate study and regulatory requirements. So that brings us to our standing items, report from the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one. The staff has been working, communicating with staff from the Downtown Alliance to confirm that some of the adjustments have been made to their program to ensure compliance with the council's travel policy. We reviewed those changes with them and they do seem to comply. And so now it falls into a category where any council member can attend who's interested. So please let staff know if you're interested in attending. Additionally, the administration's letting us know that they're putting together some content for maybe the day or two before the Downtown Alliance trip starts. And so let us know your availability for that so that as the administration's finalizing those plans, they can plan for that.
Okay. Council members, we do have a tentative closed session that would be for the purpose of strategy session to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property and for attorney-client matters. So I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we enter closed session for the purposes of discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or disposition of real property and to receive attorney-client advice.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Mono and a second from Councilmember Lopez Chavez. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Lopez Chavez.
Aye.
Mono.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Young.
Oh, aye.
Hui. Okay, and I'm a yes as well. That is, I believe, unanimous with possibly one council member not present. So we'll go ahead and close. Do we, is we getting food first? Or?
It's here if you want.
Okay, if y'all want to get food first, it is available. So let's do that.
So I'm loading it.
Yeah.